back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast, where we share games. I'm your host, Zack.
And I'm your host, Tyler.
Tyler, you brought a pretty snazzy, canned-up looking beer here.
Just double canned up on a Thursday.
Yes, correct.
I brought it really because of the label. It really matches the game we're talking about today, Pyre. This is from Mountain Walking Brewery. This is Opaque Thoughts, a double milkshake IPA with marshmallow, coconut, double vanilla, and being a milkshake IPA, lactose.
It is a hefty amount of vanilla.
Is it?
Wow.
It's double vanilla.
Maybe they should have done maybe quarter vanilla. It's a lot.
It's not. That is a lot. That's
not bad.
That's more the marshmallow. I'm getting flashbacks of the orange drink I had a couple days ago, which I poured down the drain very quickly. This is not that bad though. The marshmallow is surprisingly more subtle than that one I was talking about before. It was really gag-inducing.
Well, I like this. It's not terrible.
It's not terrible. It's pretty sweet.
Typically, when I want a milkshake IPA, though, I don't want sweet. Typically, I just want a nice creamy beer with that bitter hop flavor.
Yeah, this is... If you gave this to someone, they would not be able to tell it's a beer.
Or an IPA, honestly.
Certainly an IPA. I don't get any hop.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for a little bit. So a little disappointed, but it will not stop me. I will finish this.
And if we do finish it in time, we have another one from Mount... Where are they? I don't know. Anyway, I've got another one from Mountain Walking Brewery in the same line. This is their seasonal series. I only got 2 from last year, unfortunately. But that one is a peach cobbler sour, harkening back to episode 1. The lost episode 1.
The lost episode.
That delicious Hardywood peach cobbler.
Yes, it was a winner.
It was.
Sure as rain.
Well, let's talk about a game that we were both very surprised by, in more than one way, and that's Pyre. We're here to talk about Pyre. We've officially played all of Supergiant's games, and I'm very happy that we did.
Yeah.
I can officially say that they are my favorite studio.
That's awesome.
Even though this is one of their lesser games, I think, for a few reasons.
Out of 4?
Sure, only 4. But I mean, I've played Transistor like 6 or 7 times at this point, and I've played a lot of Hades, but probably the same amount of time, given how short Transistor is. I've probably put about 50 hours into Transistor. Anyway, we're here to talk about Pyre.
Yes.
So take it away, man. What did you think about Pyre?
Well, real quick before we go there, I do want to mention, stick around definitely for the second half of our episode. Yes. We'll be introducing a larger series on Hitman that we're starting today. Very excited to start about that. So just make sure, if you're just here for Pyre, stick around for that too. It's going to be some good stuff. But yeah, Pyre. I want to start off by talking about how this game... Every time you watch anybody review it or talk about it, anything like that, you find people mentioning that it's a weird mashup of genre. And, you know, you kind of have the sports game, visual novel, RPG, lots of elements that don't typically go together, you know, per se. And it's nice to see a studio, especially one like Supergiant, try to make something fresh and something new out of those that kind of pastiche of genres. So that was the first thing that obviously attracted me to the game, along with watching some, you know, like Mark Brown and people talk about it so highly. So I was jumping with pretty high expectations, especially coming off of Hades.
Yeah,
a lot of people,
too, unfortunately.
A lot of people are going to be playing this game right after Hades, and I think one thing that I want to mention right out the gate is you're going to probably want to pick between Transistor and Pyre as your next Supergiant game. I know with indie developers, a lot of times just going back one game, you'll see them just keep getting stronger and stronger. Really, aside from Bastion, Supergiant had just consistently knocks it out of the park, and it's pretty different game experiences every time. If you loved Hades combat, you loved just the addicting nature of, you know, making new builds and that kind of stuff throughout the series, throughout the game, go to Transistor. It's definitely going to be more up your alley. If it was the story that really kept you invested, how they built relationships through gameplay, and, really took their time with that stuff, I'd say Pyre is probably your best bet.
Especially if you used the God mode in Hades. If you were really just trying to plow through that so you could build those relationships, you can see that groundwork laid here in Pyre. So I definitely recommend.
What a great accessibility option, God mode. It fits what they're still trying to do. That you have to die. You have to go successively. You have to just keep doing runs. It's part of the story. Death is so integral to Hades' story, and to have something that makes it easier and easier and easier as you go, and still letting you die and experience those things and let the game progress as it was meant to. I liked that a lot.
Yeah,
but
for sure. Honestly, I might turn it on to go back and finish it, because I'm not as good at video games as you and Nick or Josh. I'm just not that good. I think I play a little. I don't focus on any one sort of game to really be able to master it, and so it took me a long while to get through Hades as far as I did. I think I got credits and maybe just like one or two,
which I think is a great stopping point, honestly.
But I still want to get to the end of those relationships.
More.
Like I got to the like lock for a few different characters, and I really want to see Nyx and Chaos through to the end.
Yeah,
but
I
haven't triggered that yet. Or Artemis, I'd like to build that relationship there, and I'm just having a hard time racking up those heats, just because I'm not terribly good at the game.
They are tough.
So I think I might turn on God mode next time I have a good chunk of time and just finish it.
I will say that my crowning achievement in Hades is knocking out 32 heat without using the tried and true internet tactic of Chaos Shield. I was really proud of myself for being able to do that. I used Hades' Spear. It got the fast charge and the larger area for the charge.
I can't wrap my head around the last one.
Just the fast charge
Chinese
and
one. Or maybe, I don't know, Mongolian something.
I think it's it's Guan Yu's spear. That's what it is. Yeah, dude, it is nuts. You definitely have to dump as much Titan blood as you can into it to mitigate that. The
playstyle is really weird.
It's definitely odd, and there's really, really only one build you can do with it that's going to be really viable, especially at higher heats. So I went for Hades' Spear because you get that damage bonus anytime anybody's hit by the charge. If you get the faster charge up, you'll be able to hit people pretty consistently with it. And then I got the Daedalus that lets you keep throwing your spear. Anyway, Hades, I love that game.
It's good. It's really, really good.
But I know a lot of people are going to come and want to visit games like this after playing Hades. And if you're looking for a shorter game, both will check that box. They are much shorter games, both with a lot of replay value in the respective areas we just mentioned. Transistor has a lot of replay value in the variety, how much more you can keep building on what you've built through your first run of that game. And we have an episode on it, so definitely go check that out. But Pyre, the replay value is the ending and the way that the ending is impacted and the progression and who's gone and who's not. And honestly, like you mentioned this, for an 11-hour game, there's probably 100 hours worth of writing content in it, just because everything changes based on who's there and who isn't. Which let's talk about that. What's the fundamental drive of this game for those who don't understand that?
Okay, so you have been cast down. You're sort of a nameless character. And not sort of, you're straight up a nameless, silent protagonist who has been cast down from the upper echelons of society into what's called the downside. And this is where
it's like a purgatory where you're not dead.
Yeah. So you are now in exile, and you're dying in the desert. And this group of travelers finds you, and turns out you can read. Reading has really all form of the written word has been outlawed in the Commonwealth, which is what the like society proper is called. And then anyone who is deemed to be a criminal or just unfit of being in the Commonwealth is thrown down to the downside. So you find a group of travelers finds you. They cannot read, but they have this. They're using this cart, which is equipped with a bunch of outfits for their jerseys, basically, because the Commonwealth thought it would be fun to watch you guys play this mystical sport to earn your freedom.
Yeah, but which was, the scribes set it up, though, so that you could be liberated, right? So they're the 8 great ancient heroes of old. One of each race, has set up this process for you to be able to get liberated, and everything will be forgiven you. Nothing will be held against you. You'll actually be held in even higher esteem than when you went down because
it's
you
straight
got
up
out.
A contact team sport, and they don't know the rules of this or exactly how to engage in the sport because they can't read. There's a tome in the wagon that you can read, and you start to tell them about your findings. And so you and this new team that you have start engaging in the rites, which is what the sport is called. And you, after, I don't know, maybe, what is that, like 9 matches or something like that, you finally make it up to your first liberation rite. And that's when one person from each team is anointed to go home, should that team win. And that cycle is what you're doing. But each character is so well written and so unique. There's so much fun to be had with those characters, and each of them has their own unique skill set, their own kit that's unique from any other character, with I think one exception being May and Hedwyn. They're still different enough.
I was about to say,
but there's some similarities there.
There's definitely similarities, but I would say that
her jump is nuts.
So
we'll
stupid,
definitely get to that, but you have to let someone go. That's the driving force. But they're gone. They're no longer people that you can interact with.
Someone described it as a nice permadeath.
Yeah.
It's perma-life.
Perma-life, for sure.
They go back, but you can't have them anymore.
Yeah. So that's the cycle. You're trying to free each of the characters. A bunch of things happen in that story, and things happen based on who you let go, so basically who is still in your party, and how often you use those characters, how enlightened they are, which is something I find really interesting. The integration of progression to the narrative, that works here. And in fact, with May, who we were just talking about, that's a key part of her prologue, is whether or not she's fully enlightened. So I didn't want to send her home until I did that. So there's 5 levels of enlightenment.
Yeah.
And as you progress through the rites, you become more enlightened, and you get new skills and new blessings from your
patron scribe.
Patron scribe, exactly. So that's the general conceit of the game.
Yep, and it's, honestly, it's a wonderfully drawn world, of course, not only just in terms of the artistic value, but the world is interesting. You want to be there most of the time. There's even the spots that are dingy never, it's so easy in video games to have an area that's supposed to be dingy and it's just boring looking. But I love how they build it in this game. Even those areas are just so richly detailed. They have a specific color palette. They draw your eye to the right places. Another testament to just the incredible artistic work done by really the whole artistic team at Supergiant. It's amazing. But
so you go and talk about the game part of it.
So yeah, in order to level up, which is your enlightenment, in order to reach the final liberation, right, you do have to participate in this sport. Your team, from a lore perspective, is the team that all other teams are judged by. So you always have to go participate in the liberation, right? If you don't show up, nobody gets to go home. You're the litmus test against which everybody else is tested, essentially. So you basically play this sport. You pick 3 people. It's always 3, but you can only control 1 at a time. Same with your with the opposing team. From a defensive standpoint, you're trying to get, from an offensive standpoint, you're trying to get the ball in the center and get it to the enemy's goal. Really simple, right? I guess the nuance comes in with when you pick up the ball, all your defensive stuff is lost, right? So you have this little ring around you, and it protects you. Anyone who touches it is dead, and they'll be banished, and they'll come back after a certain amount of time based on their glory stat. I think their hope stat. Their hope stat determines how quickly they'll come back, and
the glory is how much damage
they do. Yeah, and so some characters have a large presence. That means they have a massive ring, and some have little, odd little gimmicks. So like one of them, Sir Gilman, he leaves a path of his aura, and he can snap back along it to do some AoE damage, which is interesting. So if you touch, it's one hit, you're done, you're gone. But when you grab the ball, your aura goes up in the ball. You now no longer have defenses, and you kind of have to play between your characters. You pass them the ball so that character's aura comes back, but now you're not controlling that character. So they have their defenses up again, but they can. But you can also shoot your aura at someone.
So it's both your defense and offense.
Correct. So you shoot your aura at someone, or you leave one person in a specific spot so that it's hard for them to get shot by someone else, but it leaves a good aura out to defend that space on the map, and you're tossing the ball back and forth trying to get it to the opponent's goal. If your opponent has the ball, you're just trying to take them out, so to get the ball back in your possession. It's a good balance. If you ever score a point based on that character's glory, stat will determine how much damage they do to the opponent's pyre. And once that damage has been done for the next round, that character is not present.
Now that's if there's two ways to get the ball into the pyre, and that's just jumping into the pyre with it. That's when they're no longer available for that round, for the next round, that is. Or you can throw it for a particular amount of damage based on how much you charge your throw.
Yeah.
So anywhere from 1 to 20 based on how much you're throwing. And it maxes out at 20. Some characters, if they jump into the pyre, might do 30 or 35. But I think 20 is the max for throwing it. But your hero can stick around. So next round, you still have all three characters.
And it does get interesting because, if you're standing next to someone, your auras will increase on the ground, giving you more space to control with your aura, essentially. And, if you throw the ball at an enemy, they'll catch it, which in most other sports games would be a good thing for the enemy team. But in this case, their aura disappears the second they catch the ball. So you can just take them out if you're smart with it.
You can throw it at them and then just dash at them with your aura. And some of those dashes are nuts.
Yeah. I love Jody's, man, so much.
Yeah, hers and Tizo. So Tizo is this little bat imp creature. He's your pet. But he's smart enough of a pet. He's basically a Pokemon. Whereas the other, he's like Mew. Meowth to the rest of the drive imps is what they're called.
Yeah. Which
are just dumb little creatures. But he can understand you very well. He gets enough emotion across.
Yeah, he's the descendant of the little imp saint. So he has this special blessing.
So he can all but talk.
But you can understand him, which is cute.
Yeah, he gets enough emotion across. So he's like pre-speech Meowth.
Yeah, he's great. I love the little Tizo.
Yeah. He's
hard to use, though.
Dash. See, I didn't find that to be the case. I never used his explosion. So his thing
did either.
Is he just explodes. Instead of casting his aura, you can charge this huge ring, and it's an aura explosion. He's no longer around, though. You're sacrificing him for that round.
Or for as long as it takes for him to come back.
He's got a pretty big starting presence, and then you can increase that with, by various means. But his dash is just like a really quick little dash that catches me by surprise every time someone else is using it, and is a really good way to get in there and banish somebody. But he also flies, which is great. So
I've found it the reason that he's difficult to use is if you don't have a lot of focus on giving him a lot of stamina and making his dashes cost less, he just can't get the mobility you need out of him typically. That's what I found, at least. But I use the ring pair, that whenever a round starts you have infinite stamina as long as you have the ring pair together. Basically both two characters of your party have to have these rings equipped, and so I would just switch straight over to Tizo and have infinite stamina and just hop super fast across, and I'd score
good.
points.
Yeah, I didn't use those rings. I didn't actually use many of those things. I used I fully upgraded the. Okay, so let's describe those real quick. The little trinkets that you can get.
Well, I mean, honestly, it is a Supergiant game. So, there's a slow progression of, doling out mechanics over this 12-hour experience. You're going to have characters like entirely new races with their own play styles introduced pretty late into the game. It's
like
very
Birchwood. Oh my god.
Yeah, she's really good.
She's so good.
So you have that. You have, the idea of modular difficulty. You can it'll boost your experience gain.
Yeah. So this has been a staple for Supergiant since Bastion.
Yeah, this is a very Supergiant thing, and you have a bunch of different ways of adjusting playstyle, including these items. So it's a very Supergiant experience. And I think it's par for the course in that regard, in a good way. So, you have these little items. You can sometimes find them. Sometimes the character will make them for you. Sometimes you just buy them from the slug market. And you get to hear the voice of Skelly if you're a fan of Hades.
So great.
From, what's his name? Ron?
I don't know.
Falcon Ron. Falcon Ron.
Oh, the character. I thought you meant the actor.
No, Falcon Ron.
Falcon Ron. He's like a goblin, but also a slug. And his dad is very large, and he just rides on his dad's back. It's very odd. Something we should mention.
Picture Alchemist from Dota 2. That's it's pretty much like that.
While you get to hear that voice, there's not actually voice acting in this game. It's just some quick gibberish once the text box starts. It's not like Hades where there's full voice acting. They weren't quite there yet.
There is full voice acting for the narrator of the.
Oh yeah.
He's
so Logan Cunningham is the one.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah, he's been in there since Bastion.
Yeah,
as well.
He was the narrator of Bastion and the narrator of Transistor, and he's the main.
Oh my god,
voice
the
in
start
Pyre.
to the Bastion soundtrack. Have you ever listened to the Bastion soundtrack?
Yeah,
and the start of it. So it's Logan Cunningham again, but he's like, "There's three things I'll always miss." One, so I forget what exactly he says. It's I think food. He'll miss food. He's like, two, well, forget about two. And three, he talks about music for a minute. But Logan Cunningham, just anytime I hear him talk, he's really just magical.
I'm so glad he was nominated at the Game of the Year Awards. Getting that level of recognition is good for him.
Actually, I'd like to take a little side note here and talk about. Real quick, there's going to be spoilers throughout this. It's a pretty old game so far. I mean, it's like 4 years now. But so far, there's really been no spoilers. Moving forward, we're probably going to be getting into some pretty heavy-handed spoilers. We'll let you know when it's a particularly large spoiler. This is one of them. Towards the end of the game, when the announcer starts talking to you in your dreams, and he's talking about you harboring a traitor.
Yeah.
He says something towards the end of that storyline, or that little, story arc with him. He asks, what will happen to the Commonwealth? What will happen to us? So he's sort of giving me the impression that the Commonwealth is orchestrating this to some degree.
Absolutely. Well, he is the leader of the Commonwealth.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, so actually...
I didn't read that whole book.
Oh, okay. He's actually, so when you talk to Volfred, the first guy in the party of the original Nightwing, so Volfred Sandalwood is the guy orchestrating this plan to get people out of the downside, and they're all going to meet up on top and start a revolution to, reinstitute reading, to, just free. He's all about liberty
and
freedom.
Democracy. Yeah,
and so he's trying to overthrow this. Well, he was part of the original Nightwings, which is your sports team, the guys against whom everybody else is measured, right? And Volfred Volfred is really interesting because he has a lot of history with those original guys. So there was, I forget the names, but there's two men and one woman, and then Volfred, who is kind of an ant, but like short, like, a tree man. And it's really interesting because the first guy, the main one of the Nightwings, when he joined, left and became the voice.
Interesting.
So he's actually, that's why he knows Volfred, and he's bitter against him and stuff. He calls him a traitor all the time. So they actually have a history, and that's why Volfred is so afraid of putting on the Radiant, because he'll be immediately recognized by the voice. Huh. Yeah, it's cool. Really good stuff. And in fact, another major character comes in later who is who was a member of the original Nightwings, who's become a demon. Basically, the longer you're down here on the downside, you start to grow horns. And
for the humans.
Yeah, for the humans only. And you become a demon. This guy has been here longer than anybody else because he was denied his time to rise back up to the Commonwealth because the female on the team actually pushed him out of the way to try to go in herself. But she died, but then he fell and lost his chance, and everybody thought he was dead. And he comes back, and he wants to end the rights once and for all and be the last one to go home. And
really like once they introduce Orlek, it really takes a turn.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so major spoilers over for now. We'll get back to some more, but you can definitely start listening again. We'll put a little overlay there. So. What was I just going to say? What were we talking about before
items.
I made that? So, yeah, I'm sorry. I had a little segue there because I was really interested in that. I had no idea about that. Did you read that in the book?
That's a conversation with Volfred.
Okay. So, the items. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you can, each item has a level, not all of them, but many of them have levels, and as you level them up, the bonuses you get from that item increase. Each character that is participating in the rite can hold one item. Some of the items play off of each other. Some of them are really interesting, like cursed items. I like these ones. For example, you get to keep your aura when you have the ball.
Yeah, that's a really good one. See, I gave that one to Tizo.
Oh,
and so he was able to just dash around or fly.
Yeah.
And so you could fly and drop in on some people. And if you drop in at the right spot, or, if they have a smaller aura than you, your aura immediately becomes active again once you land, and you just take out those people.
Yeah, it's very good. It's fantastic.
Or Jody, giving that to Jody.
Because of that, I give it to Jody. Yeah. Because of that, though, you can now no longer shoot your aura, which is very interesting. It's a nice little trade-off. It makes you, I like those items that make you do that, but some are just flat bonuses. One of the best items in the game, it's what let me beat the last team.
Oh, I lost.
I was able to beat them because of this. Basically, if all of your guys are gone off the field, the opponents can't sprint, they can't jump, they can't use any special abilities, they can't shoot their auras, like they can just walk. And so they just walk slowly to pick up the ball.
Oh, because the last one is the demon.
Yeah, he's a big old demon, which is the slowest character in the game.
Oh,
so he's just walking really slowly towards the ball, and I'm like, okay, his timer's at 7, 6, 5, like just waiting for my guys to come back. It's very fun. I do enjoy that. But you have items. There's some stat boosts you can do with people. There's some global stat boosts you can do. Let's talk about that. So when you first start, you're just in this wagon and you're trying to just kind of make your way according to the stars, and you just kind of consistently make your way north until you finally reach the area of the Liberation Rite. And what's interesting about this is along the way, you can make decisions that, this character thinks you can find an item if you go this way, but this other character thinks that you'll have time for your vocation rights if you go this way. Vocation rights, you can forage for items. You can forage with, it's a percentage chance that you'll find anything. You can study the book, which lets you basically get global bonuses to everybody, like +1 quickness, +1 glory, +1,
Yeah, which you can get +2. I think it's presence, quickness, and. Is it glory, or there's only 3 options?
I think it's glory, and then hope is the last one.
I only had the 3 options.
Well, if you do all 3 as high as you can, it unlocks the last one.
Oh, see, I didn't. I actually until the last 2 rights, I didn't do that.
Oh, I actually maxed it out. Yeah,
so I went for that every time I had the chance. Once I finally did it the first time, I was like, I have no idea. Because I was... So the third option is to mentor one of your characters.
And they just get 1,000 experience, just flat.
Which is the equivalent of one right. So they're basically just getting the bonus of one entire match. So I did that over and over again until finally, like, everyone was just about maxed out. I didn't need to do that anymore, and I tried that out.
But what's awesome. Really interesting is as you travel and as you progress through, you might go through an area that's particularly difficult to navigate. You might pick something that, one character is really excited about, but the other one isn't. And so one character gets a bonus and the other gets a negative impact for the next right, like -2, glory or whatever. And, you can make decisions along the way. A little, NPC shows up, and what do you do with them? And that determines, it impacts the whole party. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
how...
like one time I found Falcon Run, and he's like,
yes,
so this is when you get that cool item you were talking about that lets you keep your aura. So he was sort of stranded. He was carrying some big items. He wanted help getting to... You guys had a mutual destination. He wanted to jump in the wagon and hitch a ride, and he would sell you these items for super cheap if you took him. So you can, but he's really just a gross person, and everyone
they're
got
cursed items already.
Yeah, they're cursed items already. So everyone got, was it -3 or -4 hope?
It is a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty significant. Maybe even -5.
20 is considered high, right? 20, like, as a stat, that's like considered a very high stat.
Yeah.
And so getting a -4 to anything is like really devastating. It'll impact your presence, your glory. So I don't know if we mentioned this yet. There's 4 stats total. Quickness, how fast you are. Presence, the size of your aura. Glory, which is how much damage you do to the enemy pyre. And hope, which is how fast you'll respawn after someone takes you off of the field by hitting you with their aura or shooting you with their aura, So it's any of those -4 is devastating, but you do get those really good items. So, it's an interesting little trade-off. And this is something that I think Pyre does extremely well. There's like and it's also something to its detriment, I'd argue, actually. So you have this kind of, you're progressing with your cart through these multiple areas. You're making these little decisions along the way. Later in the game, it becomes much faster. The pace picks up a lot and it matters less. But during those times, every time you stop, you can go to the wagon and talk to someone. You can perform these special rites that might help someone that are just basically 1v3s with one of your characters. It'll let you it gives you a special item for that character. A couple things you can do, but the primary thing that's happening there is you're building relationships with these characters. The story is progressing visual novel levels, like pretty beefy conversations at times, and it's the characters will interact among each other as well. So I think it's really interesting that you have this, and depending on the conversations or who you pick up along the way or what decision you make, which route you decide to go, will impact your next right. Your rights will impact how the visual novel progresses, so it's a good... I love seeing Supergiant doing those kinds of things where those bounce off of each other really well.
And so it affects how the visual novel aspect of the game progresses, regardless of whether or not you win or lose. Because there's actually no failure state. You can lose all of your matches and still get to the liberation rite and win. Now, that's going to affect... There is a leaderboard. It's straight up a sport. There's a win-loss ratio for every team, and every team has a leader that they're trying to send home. And in the later parts of the game, lower teams on the totem pole will not be eligible. So it is straight up a sport, but your combatants are also fully realized characters, and everyone has their own reason for going home. Some of them are, dumber reasons than others, but some of them are really great.
And some don't want to go home necessarily.
Yeah, some just like being here. Bertrude is one of the last characters you get. She makes it very clear that she's not really interested in going home. Now, I did send her home, but she made it clear, like, this is not something like surely you could have picked somebody else.
Yeah, she's like, I'm only going to do this for Volfred, for the plan. I love their relationship. I think it's really good and introduced late, and you see this little romantic tension there, and it's so clean.
Yeah.
It's good writing. I do want to mention, though, before we move on too much, that I also think this split is a detriment in some way, because really the visual novel portions, just by their nature, take up a lot more time.
A lot of time.
A lot more time than the rights.
And I read slowly, and I was dozing off
and
at some points.
And I read fast. Like, even for someone like me, I read lightning fast. Like, I'm not a speed reader, but I do read. Among all my friends and family, I read faster than any of them. And even for me, it took way longer to get through these sections. And I'd argue that at the beginning of the game, it makes the pace really drag, and as the game progresses and you do see what the game becomes as the pace picks up and you're really engaged in what's going on, it's because of how long it took, and I can appreciate that they took that amount of time. But in terms of an actual fun, having enjoyment moment to moment, Hades, I think they learned from it and they moved on into Hades, where the gameplay and that progression and the visual novel style progression are really intertwined. Like
Hades is much less of a visual novel than Pyre.
I agree 100%. I just think that, the way that it's intertwined, you don't lose that pace and that fun of the actual game itself as much as you do here, which is unfortunate because I think because it takes so much time and care to build it up, that the end, like really the second half of the game, really picks up, and that's what allows the second half of the game to be so strong. Okay. So I don't think there's a way that they could have really gotten around it with what they were going for, but it does hurt the game, the fun of the game for someone like me who is I want to actually get into the game and dig into the how deep can this system go and stuff.
But for someone who is already pretty accustomed to visual novels, and and maybe someone who wants a little more gameplay, but gameplay that is not going to hinder your progress. There is no failure state here. Regardless of how often you win or lose, something is going to happen, and it's
not always necessarily a bad thing.
No, not bad.
In fact, you kind of want to lose sometimes.
Yes, and I mentioned that the combatants, your adversaries, were fully realized characters. There are two in particular that I wanted to get home. And if I was able to line things up properly and have that particular team be the one at the liberation rite, I would have thrown the game to let them go home. So there's a lot here for people who do enjoy those sort of games.
There's even a moment where one of the combatants stops the game to talk to you directly and says, "Please lose. Please let her go instead."
Really?
That's Pamitha and yeah.
See, I let her go so early, but I was going to. I was going to do that anyway.
I kind of worked it so that I would fight the essence with Pamitha, and she stops the game and goes, "Please let her go."
See, I would have done that. That was my plan anyway. But so
no, I was like, also, no. This person's
This is
terrible.
something we didn't make clear. So when you finally get to a liberation rite, what are there, 9 characters?
That sounds
10?
Right. No, I think there's 9 because there's 8 races plus Fae. Right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. So anyway, when you get there, when you get to the top of the mountain and you're doing another liberation rite, you have a choice of who to send home, but only your 3 most enlightened characters, which are likely the people you've been playing with the longest and you've built the biggest relationship. And at the time, the other 2 choices, it was Pamitha and 2 others, which I did not want to send home yet. So I sent Pamitha home. And but that was my plan all along, was to throw the game and have it with Pamitha if I could match that up. It didn't work out that way for me, but I'm glad they did, take a moment to address that, because it makes complete sense.
Yeah,
I'm glad Pamitha did take that time to.
No, it's very good. Yeah, it's again both the visual novel and the actual sport really complement each other, and what you do in one impacts the other every single time. That is just good game design.
Yeah,
and I love.
And it's good writing too.
So much.
It's good writing,
and the music.
Yes, it's more
The
daring
emotional,
toward.
yeah, and it's the emotional draw of the music. Anytime that vocals come in too, because it's really just every once in a while, it means so much more, and you really feel it. And then of course there's Grand Ceremony, which is just
Grand Ceremony is among Darren Korb's best.
It slaps.
Yes, as the kiddos say. Now, I hold a very special place in my heart for Transistor. All of it, the game itself, the soundtrack, I've listened to probably 200 times. But this, Grand Ceremony, is probably his second best. I still think his best is Rage of the Myrmidons.
It's really incredible. Good. It's very good.
So good, man.
Yeah, I think... Is it in the shot, actually?
Yeah, we got the Pyre soundtrack up here since there's no physical release. I would say yet, but I don't think they're going to do it.
That's a tragedy.
They've addressed it, and they said there's not enough of a drive to pull it to, or to port it to Switch, which means there's probably not enough incentive to go through the process of physically releasing
so sad.
it. So
there's going to be a physical release of Hades, though.
Oh my God, there's got to be.
Feel it in your
It's got to be as soon as production lines clear up and it's a little easier to get those things out reliably. I think there will be.
My wallet will be there front and center.
Absolutely.
No questions.
Can we please get a collector's edition? Like Transistor.
Oh, yes. I'm all in.
Yeah.
But yeah,
absolutely.
The music, I mean, there's not much more to say.
Could we get like I bet if they don't release just like a plush for, what is the little Gorgon's name in Hades?
Oh, Dusa?
Dusa, yeah. If there's not like a plush Dusa that you can buy separately, I bet there'll be like a stupid little stress ball Dusa. I'm sure there'll be something like that. Yeah,
she's amazing.
Like there's a collector's edition which I wish I would have gotten for the Neverwinter Nights and Torment Tides. No, not Tides of Numenera. Planescape Torment. So there's a bundle for that and a collector's edition that came out last year with a stress ball Skelly, or whatever his name is, the skeleton that follows you around and is just all of the jokes in that game.
That's amazing.
He's great. You gotta play that game, man.
I need to play that game. I know. I really want to. Very badly.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, I do want to talk about, you mentioned earlier, the failure state. Supergiant, ever since Transistor has really, if you watch interviews with the devs, they're really talking about, we consider the failure experience of the player consistently. So in Transistor, anytime you failed, it would force you to rethink your kit by shutting off availability to...
Yeah, it forced... but in a very good way, forced experimentation.
Yeah, and I appreciate that a lot. Pyre takes us to the next step. Your failure experience influences the story itself, and not necessarily in a negative way all the time. You're not going to fall behind. There are feedback. Mark Brown talks about this a lot in his video on Pyre. There are feedback loops in place to balance and to make you continue to do better. I think they balance that stuff really well. So... I do think, though, that another important aspect to think about when it comes to the failure state in Pyre is that, unfortunately, because of it, not much really can change. There's the outcome of the story might vary somewhat, and, a certain character might get out while another won't. And there are some really emotional moments because of that. But unfortunately, it doesn't always necessarily mean that there's much variety in replaying it because of that failure state, which is good from a gameplay perspective, but unfortunately, it doesn't always change too much.
Well, yeah, I think it does change pretty significantly with the, I guess, the win state, which given the story, it could be perceived as a failure state as well, based on who you let go. The first person you let go was Hedwyn. Hedwyn was the last person I let go, and I built a very strong relationship with him over that whole game. Or I let Pamitha go too early, and you had that moment with Pamitha. And just based on all of that,
for sure, and who you fight at the liberation, right, is going to impact that stuff too. I guess what I meant is the overarching narrative will stay the same. every time. Even from what I understand, the ending, if you don't succeed in your plan necessarily,
I think there are a couple endings, but they're loose variations.
Yeah, from what I understand. Ending. So I do think that what they have is better than the alternative. I like the idea that, it's still just kind of one way to go, because it lets that failure state create your own little emotional journey, each little step. You know what I mean? And you get to bond with those characters, and you're right, the dialogue changes and how they respond to situations might change a little bit here or there. That's what's good, and that's what matters, and that's what's delivered because of that. So I definitely prefer that personally, but I can see how some might not enjoy it as much.
Well, I was very surprised with this game for 2 reasons. I mentioned that at the beginning of the podcast. I think this is true of both of us. The first half of the game, we had a hard time wanting to go back.
Yeah, really hard time.
It was. I was enjoying all the characters. What really got it for me was the gameplay. I just wasn't particularly engaged with the rights, but that's also because I was. I set my expectations based on Transistor and Pyre. Transistor and Hades. This is a very different game.
Very different.
The gameplay is just an accompaniment to the story, whereas it's the other way around for these other games.
For sure.
Gameplay is front and center in Transistor and Hades, and even Bastion as well. So this is out of left field for them, for sure, but helped lay the groundwork for some of the things we love most about Hades. So we were pretty turned off in the beginning there, really coming back just based on the obligation of playing it for this episode. But about halfway through, once they introduce a couple of characters, and I think it's your third rite, after the third rite, or the third liberation rite, the story takes a pretty sharp turn, and new elements start to be introduced, many new elements, and pretty quickly as well. You mentioned the pace picking up. Once that happened, I was fully invested.
Absolutely.
And was having so much fun.
I had the same experience.
So I'm happy we stuck through it, but that was the other surprise, was the way they were able to turn that around.
Yeah. Because, what was the first surprise was that I wasn't immediately wanting to play it.
Yeah.
Just right away, because that's been my experience with Bastion, Transistor, and Hades. Is yep, I'm gonna play this game, no questions asked. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And you did mention this. I wanted to kind of really hammer home that this game, without this game, there is no Hades.
Yeah, absolutely.
The lessons they learned on how much writing they did for this game, how to make sure that the player's input based on a win or a loss, or in Pyre it's just a win or a loss, really. Hades, it's even the items you choose and what you take with you and stuff.
Which upgrades you choose, whether or not you choose upgrades at all, how far you get.
Yeah, so to see that groundwork laid by just a win-loss condition, and how that can just drastically shape dialogue options and character relationships. And I cannot imagine the amount of work that went into this short 12-hour game. Cannot imagine. And I'm extremely grateful for it. You see the emotional draw, that they recognize this even more. I think that this is the biggest transition from Bastion and Transistor, is the central emotional draw is front and center in Pyre. In fact, when I kind of first got hooked, it wasn't when I wanted to keep coming back. When I first got hooked was that first liberation, right? When someone had to leave, and you have the sadness and the happiness combined in the van afterwards, and people, how it impacted how they felt, and who you started going, wait, well, I don't want this person to go, or this person really deserves to go. They want to go. Why do they want to go? That emotional draw is definitely what keeps you going to the end of the game. And again, it's really front and center in Hades. You see the work that went into Pyre just blossoming into something that thankfully many people got a chance to play and love in Hades. So I'm very grateful for this game.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad we finally got around to playing it. I don't know why I didn't play it before, but it's a good time to play it right after Hades. What a great first decade for this studio. I'm so much looking forward to the next 10 years.
Yeah, I hope that
with Supergiant.
I hope they really continue to knock it out of the park. They got some great minds working on their team.
Absolutely. Now, let's get into some major spoilers. So right here, if this game sounds like something you're going to enjoy, maybe check out the timestamps and skip ahead to our discussion of Hitman. Hitman Episode 1. So, Hitman 2016 Episode 1. So, I want to talk about the story. I want to talk about who you let go, some of the things that you encountered. We already talked about Pamitha. I'm really glad that worked out. But who did you let go?
So obviously I let Hedwin go first, and it was just because I felt like he was the most deserving of being let go at that time. I felt like, he had a lot of baggage, sure, but like he was so gentle and kind and willing to hold people together, and his heart was to let them go first. That's kind of why I felt he deserved to go first.
Yeah, you say obviously I let him go first, but I don't think that's obvious, because for that reason, I kept him around. He was the very last one that I sent home.
Sure, but like I think for me it was, this guy deserves it more than anyone else.
He did,
right?
but he wanted to stay and see his friends through to the end.
I know. I couldn't. So, I couldn't take it away from him. He was
the last one I let go, and it did not work out because I lost.
Yeah,
and he didn't get to go home.
Yeah,
which was so sad. Oh my god.
I held on to Jodie as long as possible because she was my favorite character. But actually, it was the second to last liberation rite. I was like, I can't hold you here anymore, especially after Faye leaves, or whatever you decide to call her. When she leaves, Jodie is heartbroken. Like, just like, like there's this hole in her heart all of a sudden.
Really?
And so I was like, fine, I can't keep you here anymore. You have to go. You have to go take care of her. Go.
Oh, sad day.
It's really good.
See, I let her go first, and it's not too dissimilar with I called her May, I think, but she then kind of turns to Tizo, and she just sort of quiet and just invests her time with Tizo. And then at the end, when you get to see the prologue for all the characters, it mentions how much she relied on Jodie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really liked, I just couldn't, and thank God, because it would have made that last decision way harder for me if I had Jodie there. But I was like, no, I just can't keep you here anymore, because she was my favorite. Jodie is just, God, she's amazing. Yeah. What a woman.
I like Jodie, May, or you called her Faye, and Hedwin.
Yeah.
The most.
I think I really liked, really all the characters have, if they're not interesting inherently, it's their relationships with the others that makes them. So like Big Bertrude's a great example. She was the one who helped Wilfred Sandalwood, the guy who's trying to, start this revolution. She's the one who made the ink for his printing presses to try to get population to be able to read, right? So she's the one who helped him with that, and she was cast down with him, and there's this romantic tension where she feels this love for him that he doesn't.
Yeah. Now I think she was cast down way before him, because
is it way before him?
Well, it's like 10 years at least. There, if you look at their profile.
Maybe I'm wrong there, but it was that crime. She was cast down. It was that
crime. Yeah. He was cast down much later, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and she has this love for him that he doesn't requite, basically, and he but they're still friends and they still care for one another, and you get to listen to this sweet conversation between this tree man and the snake lady. It's very Supergiant. It's very good. I love, it's a mature perspective on life and relationships with other people, especially old ones like that. So, but then you play as Bertrude, who's just nasty.
She's so good.
Yeah, her jump is insane.
Yeah.
I will just like sprint.
But also her sprint.
Yeah.
She's so fast.
Yeah, and her special talent, her special item or whatever, lets her shoot through objects.
Yeah.
What? That is busted.
So you let Hedwin go. Now, on your way to the first liberation, you come across her, but she doesn't join your party yet. Now, with Hedwin there, he just sort of asks if she wants to come, because they need one of each race to fully enact the plan, or to enact the plan to the best of its abilities. But she like shuns you and sends you away because of your nasty flirtations. He's just like, would you like to join us? And she thinks he's really
coming
hot
on
for
to
her.
Yeah.
And that happens a few more times. She's just this old lady, and he's this sweet young guy that's just like trying to look out for this old lady. Like, would you like me to help you up into the wagon or something like that? And she's
not
totally
having it.
No,
Not having it.
no, that's really funny. Let's see.
So yeah, I let Hedwin go, followed by Rookie.
He was the first one I let go.
Yeah, I let Rookie go because he was done. He explicitly expressed that he wanted to go home to see his family, and so I was like, okay. And he had his wrap up moment with the other dog, the anarchist one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they have this moment where it's a double or nothing. Like, if Rookie beats him in this right, he doesn't owe him anything. But if he beats Rookie, then Rookie owes him double. So it's this interesting little tete-a-tete they have. And so, but he wraps that up and then he wants to go home. So I sent him home. I kind of went down the line a little bit. I actually my last 3 guys that I had for the final right was Wolfred. I had Wolfred, and I had Bertrude, and I had Tizo. And I was going to let Wolfred go, because I figured he'd be the most influential in making the plan work. So I think that he would have been a good choice. But then, of course, you get to the ending, and you have a much more significant choice to make.
Yes. Yeah, so one of the characters you meet later on, after your third right, I believe, your third liberation right, is the guy who was cast down off of the mountain, who, if you listen through the spoiler part, we already talked about, that is Orlek. And he's been training as the true Nightwings. And he's your final match. You fought him once before, and
he crushed me.
I won that one.
Oh, he destroyed
he absolutely eviscerated me in the second one, and being the last liberation. And so he wins, and at least he did with me. And it's very similar. This is one of the points where there's not too much of a branching path here. So he wins, and what you've been doing to the liberations to sort of manipulate them have affected the whole system. The whole system is crumbling, and this is the last time someone will be able to go home. The last time ever. And there's the gate to go home is open, but there's only enough energy for one person to walk through, and they might not even make it. But you now have the choice or he has the choice of letting you go instead.
Yeah, and if you win, it's the person you chose has that choice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Wolfred had that choice.
For me, it was Hedwin, but again, I didn't win, unfortunately. Sad day.
Yeah, but basically both... basically in the winning condition, I assume it varies based on the character, but Wolfred goes, nope, give it to the reader. The reader should go home, since there's an opportunity for him to go. And then you can put that back onto Wolfred, or you can take it, or you can give it to Orlek.
I gave it to Orlek. Yep. Yeah, so Orlek, if you, depending on how you enter into dialogue with him during this time, so he's deliberating with himself, and you can step in with a few different options there. And I stepped in with the sort of like hand on shoulder, hey, how you doing, bud? I know this is a difficult situation. And he finally decides to let you go because he realizes he's so just engulfed in anger that getting out is not actually going to be fulfilling. So, and because he's so blinded by anger, he probably won't be as instrumental in the plan, which has always been the plan. Even he was a part of that plan initially. And he realizes he won't be as instrumental, so he lets you go, but you ask or you have the option to ask if your anointed one can go, and he wouldn't let Hedwin go, unfortunately. So I was like, fine, you go. You take it. And he went.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when he goes for you, he lives a very different life than he did when I won and let him go, right? Because it's the difference between, you just going, no, it's fine, I don't really want to go, like, you take it, and he goes, okay, thanks, versus like I won and I go, no, you go ahead, and he's like, what? Why? Like, and it's that moment of mercy, and he goes up and actually is, so it does change, little things here. There, again, it's the small changes instead of the overarching grand ones that are interesting to me. And now, I think they do well.
I don't think you interacted very much with a sort of side non-playable character.
I did not. I used her to get character
right
items.
Now.
Sandra.
Like Brenda?
Sandra.
Sandra, that's it. Sandra. So next to the tome, the Book of Rites, which I mentioned in the very beginning, is this orb. The orb, what's it called?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's the green orb that gives me good items.
Yes. So inside of this orb, there's this little pocket dimension that you can train inside of. But there are three... The people who initially killed the gods, right? Something like that?
I don't...
So this tome gives you all the history.
With it very much.
Okay. Did you read much of the book?
I read a lot of the book.
Oh. So she's in there. She's the person the first chapter talks about.
Yeah.
I forget, is it one of the gods that she kills or like some king?
I don't remember.
Yeah, before the Commonwealth rose up, there was another civilization that she helped bring down. And then the scribes locked her and her accomplices in this
That
orb.
sounds right, because the scribes are the ones who defeated the monsters.
Yeah. So she's locked in here for eternity. And she's seen many different cycles of the Nightwings, which is your team. And she's really like off-putting. She's not a polite person. She really hates most people, but you can keep pressing that relationship. And finally, you soften her up a little bit, and she realizes maybe you're actually a genuine person, not just there to use her. And
like I was.
Yeah, you were definitely there to use her. And which, I mean, she's there for. She mentions time and again, I'm really... what does she say? Oh, I'd really ask you to stop wasting my time, but that's literally all it's here for. She says stuff like that over and over again. So anyway, she realizes maybe I'm not here to actually use her, and that relationship starts to build a little bit. And you don't always get to talk to her, but every time I was in the cart, I went and talked to her to see if there was a new dialogue option. And eventually she catches herself letting her guard down and shuts you out for a while, like maybe 2.5 different cycles of the rites. And she's just not talking to you. And then finally you keep pressing that, and she gives in. She's like, okay, I'm gonna hate myself. I can never kill myself in here, unfortunately, but I'm going to hate myself if this, really comes back to bite me, if I prove myself right. But she sort of accepts your friendship. And then at the end, she basically summons you. Instead of you going to the orb, she forces you into the orb and begs to bring her with you. She knows you can't let her out of there. She is trapped in there for eternity, but just carry this orb for a while. And she still doesn't trust you enough because she's like, hey, listen, maybe, later on this can, fetch you a good price. You can sell me later. I don't care. You can just bring me with you. And it was a really sweet relationship. But that's how I spent my days since I didn't go home. I was just in the downside with Hedwyn and Wolfred, who, because I let Bertrude go home. You did not. And so I was just down there with Hedwyn and the orb. But then Hedwyn, so I didn't let him go. He was stuck. And he wanted to go home and find his girl. And so Hedwyn, his crime was being a deserter and a conspirator. So he was not working, but he was a part of the army fighting the bird people. What are they called? I forget. The harps. They're harpies. So the harps and the humans have, been going at it for many years, and he finds a harp and they grow a relationship, and he gets caught and sent down, cast away. And she has no idea if she's still alive, if she was cast down. But you mentioned that they did get back together, that he was able to find her when he went back up, right? So because I let Pamitha go, who knew her, you got to have a conversation between the two of them later on, and she realizes, hey, I knew this person. Not well, but certainly an acquaintance of mine. And, I've only been down here a year, but she was certainly alive by the time... Or, no, I think she had only been there a couple of months, Pamitha. But she said that this person was still alive. And so because I sent her out first, she relayed that message. She said, hey, he's still alive. He's coming for you. But at the end, he didn't make it out. Hedwyn didn't make it out. And she decided to cast herself down and go be with Hedwyn. So then they left and did their own thing. And now it's just me and Sandra. Just wandering the downside. Yeah, that's it. Sandra. She's a really good character. I liked her a lot. I'm sorry you didn't pursue that.
I mean, I'm a cruel man.
Cruel man. Just used her and abused her.
Yes.
Now, Bertrude, I really like her character. She also, I don't know if you got to this point, and maybe you have to develop the relationship with Sandra, but she, when everyone's like outside around a campfire or something, she goes into the wagon.
Starts messing with the orb.
The orb. Did you see that?
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. And she has this like immense respect for it after tampering with it a little bit, and she's able to like summon Sandra, but for some reason you and Volfred, well, not for some reason, you and Volfric are both readers, Volfred, so you can summon the orb, summon Sandra from the orb, but for some reason Bertrude is able to as well. And her race, the crones, the snake people, they're like some ancient race. They're very, very old, and they live for a very long time, so maybe she was familiar with that sort of magic. But yeah, somehow she was able to summon.
Yeah, they're really
Sandra.
Cool. The crones, I like them a lot.
Yeah,
they're a good fantasy race. Like that's just
definitely,
good. Yeah,
definitely,
just good writing to have that kind of history and context. It's good stuff.
The demons as well. I like the demons.
The demons are my favorite part. Like the idea that it's just a human who's just been down here too long, and it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Now I also really like.
So that means Hedwyn's a demon.
Well, he was only there for 2 years.
No, but it's the downside, and he's there forever now because of you. So.
Oh, he is now a demon.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Good job, Tyler.
Oh, they never. Oh, I wish they would have touched on that.
Yeah.
Like, what if at the page where you get to select characters and view their prologue, you should have made him a demon. That would have been very interesting.
Yeah.
Or I guess May would have been as well, unless there was some excuse for her being a moon-touched child.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Yeah, I don't know. Now, when did you let her go? Better question. Was she fully enlightened when you let her go?
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind then. I'm just wondering if she got that prologue.
Everything.
Oh, God.
She was just wrecking shop.
Her jump is nuts.
No, and like her little, in fact, unfortunately, her little epilogue was like kind of, really flat comparatively. It was just kind of like, because all the others I was just like, oh, what happened to them? I need to know, which basically just as a picture of this at the end of the game, there's a big page of all the characters, including the non-playable characters, and you get to click on them and see where are they now, that kind of stuff. And it's really cool, actually. I like Ruki's ending a lot. Ruki and Sir Gilman both have some really cool, and you get to see who's still friends and who's kind of moved on, and it's good stuff.
I liked Maze because, I mean, everyone else, she's the only exception here. Everyone else is an adult that has to adjust their lives. She's just a kid and becomes an adult, which might be a little boring, but that's how life works. Like,
no, for sure.
She didn't have something to change because she's just a kid.
Yeah. No, so, I get it.
So she joins a church and she becomes this, like
astral,
really, like highly appointed scribe in the church. And she always goes to Jody to sort of like set her straight. And like, does this really make sense? I mean, I hear from the scribes. I'm not sure if you do, but Oh, what? How does this sound
And
to you,
Jody is like really like at the beginning of the game, just like pshaws all the scribe stuff, but like through Mayfei Bailey. Hey.
Oh, there's so many names you can choose.
Yeah,
so they're all like some
pages.
Yeah, I think there are 3 or 4 pages of like 3-letter names
that are all just like a consonant AE.
Yeah,
like, that's it. But yeah, you know. You get to see Jody kind of come around because of her. Like, there's this beautiful little moment where she just hugs her after she like May just has this little rant about, oh yeah, no, I saw this like slug and I didn't want to eat it because, you know, I try not to eat things. I understand it's the cycle of life and stuff, but I just don't want to eat it, you know, if I don't have to eat it, because it's there and it's alive and I like that. And she's going on this little rant and Jody just like hugs her and says, I'm so glad that you understand what I still do not. And it's just like this beautiful little moment.
That's good. I don't know if that's later in the game or
it was pretty late.
I let Jody go a little earlier on than I had anticipated because I wasn't going to let May go until she was fully enlightened. And so my plan was to have it be May, then Jody, then Hedwyn. But that didn't quite work out, so it was Jody, May, Bertrude, Hedwyn. And because I was stuck on having Hedwyn be the last one.
Yeah.
Because he expressed that to be, well, on the surface, that is what he wanted. That was his front. You definitely knew deep down he wanted to go very badly, but he was a good enough friend to see everybody else through the end.
And you took that from him.
I did take that from him. But because
he found love still.
Yeah, because of a couple things I did, she was able to come meet him again.
And now he's horny all the time. So
that's correct.
But
that is correct.
You got anything else to say about Pyre, man?
I don't. It's surprisingly good. I don't know when, if ever, I'm going to go back to it.
So what's your official Supergiant Games ranking?
My favorite.
Your favorite, like
Transistor, Hades, Pyre, Bastion.
Yeah, I have
more fun in Bastion, but Pyre's I really
the
enjoy
emotional
those
journey is So I think for me it's very similar. It's just Hades, Transistor, Pyre, Bastion.
Now I will concede that Hades is a better game. I just love Transistor.
Sure, you just love it. Like, I mean, my favorite games are full of things that probably should not be there, but screw objectivity. It's my favorite.
Sure.
I like it. So
it's also the fact that I can pick up Transistor and finish it on my way to Dallas.
Sure.
You know, sitting in a car ride. It's very short. It's always engaging. And the 6 or 7 times that I've played it, I've always found something new. So yeah, I think that's going to be the one.
It's good stuff. Well, let's take a quick break. And before we do that, though, I want to make sure we mention we are trying to build up our community right now. Best way to share games with us is on our Discord, which you can get through our Patreon. Just a little $2 a month tier would help us a lot, and you get to join that and start helping us, be one of the first, help us build from the ground up. We'd really love to share those games. We've been sharing some interesting games so far. Just little, we have little monthly playthroughs that we try to do. We, have little photo mode powwows, stuff like that. So we'd love to have you there. But if you don't, not there, that's not, you can't swing that for some reason. Just, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We'd love to see you there, and we'd love to hear from you, hear what you think about Pyre, Hitman, anything we're talking about, anything we're not talking about. If you got a game that
share games with us.
Yeah, Tyler and I have some pretty big blind spots in our gaming pedigree. So
definitely.
It's we'd love to kind of try to expand that and challenge ourselves, since that's what we're all about.
He doesn't even know what Tetris is.
Yeah, what even is that game? Something about putting stuff away in a car, right?
Yes,
and that's what people always seem to bring it up when that happens. So, anyway, that's it, guys. We'll be right back with
one more thing. Here on YouTube, well, if you're watching on YouTube, definitely consider a like and a subscribe and a review on your favorite podcast platform if that's how you're consuming our content.
Yeah, because it's helpful. And
Very
we
much
love
so.
you.
Very much so. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast. I am still your host, Tyler.
Yeah, and I think I'm still Zack.
Probably.
It's a questionable after what just happened. Hey, let's start something that's going to go for a long time this year.
Yes.
Tyler and I are going to play through the entirety of Hitman 1 through 3. We've never played any of them before.
That is starting with Hitman 2016.
Correct. Hitman, the seasonal release of Hitman 2016, then we'll go into Hitman 2 and Hitman 3. We're just going to do one episode at a time. Mm-hmm. I believe 3 we do plan on just...
full episode.
3 we're going to do a full, big, celebratory episode. We're going to be excited to do that. But for example, today we're just getting started. We did the prologue and episode 1 of Hitman. We tried to play it through a couple times, get to know the level, and just be able to enjoy this game series that we've both been looking forward to digging into.
I just haven't taken the chance. I'm not quite sure why, but just haven't jumped in yet.
Yeah, everybody expresses how fun, how creative these games are. So I'm really excited to see the developer be able to really just play around with this IP they've had for a long time, and try a new format and develop something pretty new, honestly. So yeah, let's just get right into it. I want to make sure that we talk about our first impressions first, though. What's your first takeaway?
So for me, I'm playing Hitman in the Hitman 3 client. So I am getting some of those updated graphics, maybe even updated physics. I'm not quite sure.
There's definitely some updated UI I was noticing because I was just playing Hitman 1.
Oh, yeah?
Open Hitman 1. And there's definitely the UI is a little bit different, better, to be honest. So.
Oh, interesting. I've got a few upgrades there, but I'm going to play the whole thing in the Hitman 3 client with that progression carrying through. I'll just purchase it again. I think I got it in a bundle, so I pretty much didn't pay for Hitman 2, which for some reason is not linked. Hitman 1, if you buy it now, I think, because it came out just a couple days ago. So if you pre-ordered it or buy it within, I believe, the first 10 days on Epic, you'll get Hitman 1 as well. Hitman 2, I didn't see being available on Epic yet. So they're currently working out how to carry over your progression without having to repurchase it. So you can go to the IO website and purchase that through the Hitman 3 client. It's a bit muddled. Honestly, this is really a mess, in my opinion.
Yeah, it'll get ironed out eventually.
It'll definitely get ironed out, and I'm expecting it to be ironed out by the time we finally get there. But if not, I'm just going to repurchase it.
Do you know what my first impression of the game was?
What?
So what happens is you start the prologue. It's this kind of training mission where they're kind of teaching you the basics of the game. And one of the first things you do, you learn the fundamental mechanic of the game, which is disguises. You can knock someone out, take all their clothes off, and hide them in a locker and wear their clothes. The whole idea being, people see the uniform, not the face, kind of thing. And so he knocks this guy out. They believe it's some sort of warehouse worker. He's got the orange vest, that kind of stuff. Knocks him out, and I pick up the body to drag it over to put it in the closet, and the floppy, slimy, greasy body dragging sounds are among the best in any video game. I was really impressed with the sound design right out the gate. It feels really satisfying to just chunk a hammer at someone's head.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, and like
a hammer or a wrench.
Yeah, just the way it bounces off their head, the sound it makes. They're like, "What was that?" Like, it's just really satisfying.
You stand up and they barely have a chance to be like, "Hey, Mr." Oh, and then they're done.
It's really satisfying. In the first episode, there's this room of just antiques, and I picked up a battle axe and would just two-hand chunk it at people's faces.
It's very nice.
Again, so that was the first thing that stood out to me when I booted the game up. I was really impressed with that.
My first impression, just like yours, was the tutorial, and you're given 3 missions. One is to assassinate someone on a yacht. The next one is to do that again without the tutorial. Just play this game how you'd like to. And then the next one is far less interesting. I felt. I
was just
really
trying to
that one.
Yeah, it seems like a much smaller scale version of just like, hey, here's how it seems to be. Here's how options will present themselves to you in a level, and it was nice. I mean, it was it's a tutorial level. It was done really well, and
the yacht though I found to be. A lot of fun. There's not too many ways that you can.
It's pretty small, closed environment,
but it was definitely satisfying. It was rewarding to me to see. So you're given a target, and later on in the level, he meets up with another guy, and then they go off into a back room to talk business, and that's the best place that you can kill this guy, your target. So what I did was, in the very beginning of the level, before this stranger even gets on the yacht, I lured him away with, which is really just a great distraction tool. You just flip a coin onto the ground, and someone will be like, "Oh, cool, a 50-cent piece."
Yeah,
and they'll go pick it up.
My favorite is if they see you do it, they're like, "Dude, pick up your change." Like, they like get grumpy with you. Like, what are you doing? Like, stop throwing stuff around, man. Like, stop being annoying. Which is really, I mean, another really standout piece of this series is how the environmental characters will just interact with you. If I'm wearing the silly clown outfit and I walk up to a place I'm not supposed to, they go, "Hey, I'm sure you're really funny, but you can't come in here, pal." Like, they'll comment on it, and it's just really satisfying.
Yeah, and it's probably only going to get better. We're only in the first level here, and with Hitman 1, that was an episodic release, so they were learning from episode to episode.
I heard that actually after the release of the first episode, they really went back and tinkered with Sapienza and like really made it shine, and that's what really turned people onto the series. Like,
which I'm so excited for.
This is really special, and I love that we're doing it episodically. It makes sure that Tyler and I are like really digging into the level and like figuring out. It's just a huge space typically, and I was again really impressed with that stuff. But yeah, you're right. The coin is just a great distraction tool.
The second time you do the yacht, you just do it by yourself, and that was like maybe 2 minutes for me because I lured the guy away. I knocked him out, took his clothes, and just walked onto the yacht as him. And it lined up to where my target and me sort of met as I was boarding the yacht. And I talked to him.
A crazy random happenstance.
Well, you have to address him because he's never met you before, which is why you can wear the disguise. It's like this bearded guy that he's never met you, so you can put his clothes on, no problem. So you address him, and he's like, "Oh, hey, so and so, very nice to finally meet you. Do you want to just get right to it?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure, lead the way." So he takes you to the back room. I take him out and leave.
That's so
just
quality.
Casually walk out.
Sorry about the mess.
Yeah.
Action movie one-liner. It's just something stupid. But that's what's great, too, is the variety. And I guess let's just jump into the what I think is the core joy of this game is the level design. Mm-hmm. It is it's massive without feeling empty. Like every room you go into, every balcony you can hang off of, it all leads to something that is interesting, that if not valuable for what you're trying to go for now, you will remember later when you try a different tactic. Best example, the amazing progression mechanics in this game are every time you replay the level, as long as you're trying new things and doing other assassination methods, you'll keep unlocking more areas where you can start. You can start in the kitchens. You can start, already up in the there's basically a black auction going on, and you can go and sit there and pretend to. You start there. You start at that auction where they're auctioning off intel, and you're just in the seat already, and they expect you to be there. That's like the last one you unlock, I think. Mm. But as you replay it and master the level, you get more options, so that as you don't get bored. Basically, there's more you can do. So you unlock a sniper rifle at one point, like a silent sniper rifle. I don't know if it's silenced actually. I definitely didn't use it like it was silenced, but I remember seeing a balcony that was pretty secluded, overlooking where an interview with one of the targets happens. And I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." And sure enough, when I went back to do that level with the sniper rifle, I remembered that point, and I went and I tried it, and sure enough, it worked. It was great. The pieces of the level are memorable enough, so it almost Metroidvania level, where like, oh, that's significant, I'll remember that. And then you do remember it and go back and use it, but in a much more open way. So,
also sort of, it's really in a vacuum. So each location is totally secluded from every other level.
Yeah.
There's no sort of like world progression there. It's just you replaying this level over and over and learning more about it.
And you can tell they put their heart and soul.
Yeah, at least the first level and even the tutorial was pretty dense. There's a lot to do there, and even you played like 6 times, right? You played several times?
Yeah, I think 5. I think I did it 5 times.
So you came over and I was playing this morning. So unfortunately, I only got to play it twice. But you came over and I had found something that you were looking for. You didn't know where the...
Yeah, I was like,
where the fireworks were.
Yeah, I knew where the firework launcher was, the button, but I had no idea how to use them or anything. And you found the clipboard with the information on it, and I was like, well, there you go. Yeah, there's just so much there. It's really enjoyable, and honestly, it is very, very fine if you just goof off and are stupid. Like I said, grabbing a battle axe and chunking it at people's faces.
One of the difficulty modes is specifically for that. They give you a quick rundown of what's changing in this difficulty mode, and one of the bullet points is this is just to have stupid fun with. If you want to try something weird, save and do it again. That's what this is for.
Which is awesome. And then, Tyler and I were talking about the save states. I always am reminded of Dishonored. I would just save and try something and just keep going. And it made it pretty easy, even on harder difficulties versus something like Hitman, where the harder the difficulty gets, on the hardest difficulty, you have 1 save in the whole level, and that's it. It makes you, and it's meant for you to already be very efficient at that level. You know what I mean? Because honestly, the first time you play levels is the longest it takes, for me at least, because you're learning the space, learning the different tiers, like which costumes are allowed where, how do I progress to each location that is significant.
Which is, the costumes is... one of the biggest mechanics in the game.
Yeah.
So there's basically different classes of citizens. So you've got in the first level, you're in a mansion and there is a fashion show, like a really exclusive elite fashion show happening. And so there's the makeup crew, there's the lower level staff, there's the upper level staff and the waiters, there are the guards, and there are different tiers of the guards. There are the garden workers, there's the media. So the different classes of people all interacting with each other in unique ways. And so when you put on a uniform, you're now interacting with everybody else in very different ways. Maybe you put on makeup as one of the models. And in fact, that's one of the clearer ways to finish the level is to take out one of the more well-known models, like basically the showpiece. He's there leading the whole thing, and you can take him out, put on his makeup, and walk down the runway. Yeah, walk down the runway. But you're interacting with all of these classes of people in unique ways based on how you dress, and then even within those classes, there's a hierarchy to that. So you might have the kitchen staff that's not really paying attention to you because you're dressed up as a waiter, but then there's the chef who recognizes who's currently on duty, and you don't fit the bill. So he's one person in that class, or there might be several people in that class.
And there's even you could be dressed as a waiter that's allowed only on the downstairs, or a waiter that's allowed anywhere, in the upstairs or downstairs sector, or just I'm only an upstairs waiter or only a downstairs waiter. They have different classes, and you're gonna have to learn that in the level, and it's just fun to experiment and walk around. It's just really fun to take someone's disguise, essentially, and just wear it and start walking around, and just people don't question you anymore, which plays into I think a really elegant alert system. I really like how they handle it. It's, if you take someone out and they don't see you when they're woken up, sure, they're going to be searching for someone, but they don't know who.
Yeah.
And so they're probably not going to find you.
So much better than pretty much any other game. the game knows that you are the the driving force in the world. So if something negative happens, it must be the player character. There's no other option. But here, it's very realistic in that you can go. Maybe I have the model's clothes on, but I haven't gone to get my makeup done yet. I am reacted to differently based on whether or not I have my makeup on.
Yep.
Or you can just go put on a completely different uniform.
Absolutely.
And you're no
or
longer
like
recognized.
if someone, let's say I take someone out, but like before I knock them out, they've seen me in the crew outfit. If someone goes and wakes them up and they go, they'll tell them, he's in a crew outfit. And if I've changed, they won't be able to find me. Mm-hmm. So it's based on, did they see you? Did they not? It's elegant compared to a lot of other things. It lets you feel like you're blending in a lot better and you're a lot smooth criminal,
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned you can do different things. I unfortunately totally botched this attempt, but one of the things you can do is poison a champagne glass for one of your targets. But I tried it as the model. So taking out this model and putting on his clothes basically lets you go anywhere. There's really nowhere you can't go.
I think just the kitchens.
No, I was able to go in the kitchens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't really let you do anything, but they're not really questioning you.
Interesting. Okay.
And even upstairs where all the guards are on the third floor, you can go there. They'll ask you to leave, but they're not hostile towards you. So you have some clout here.
Interesting.
But I walked up to the champagne glass and poisoned it, and people saw me like messing with the table in a way that wasn't just grabbing a glass and going to a table. So I think if I were a waiter,
lists an action or an item as illegal. Right. Yeah. That's what's interesting. So like if he's dressed as the model and he's carrying around like an axe or a sword or something, you can't just conceal that. And so you just have to carry it or drop it, basically. Or if you have like a big gun, like an assault rifle or something, that's an illegal item. But if you change outfits and become a bodyguard, everyone will think it's okay. It's no longer an illegal item for you. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting.
Or if you're a mechanic, you can carry around wrenches and hammers ready to be thrown, and there's no question.
Nobody's going to question you. Yeah, I like that system too, especially because it marks it. Like, if you go to make a poisoned drink as a bartender, which is something that I did to take out the target. He has this really special drink he likes, and I mixed it for him, and I put poison in it. Nobody questioned because, he's a bartender just putting stuff in the drink for the customer, right? And so you just done, and that's it. But if I'm not the bartender, it'll have a little red exclamation mark telling me that action is considered illegal because they're going, why is this person walking up and just dumping stuff in people's drinks, right? If you're a bartender, they don't care. So I think that's really cool how clearly they communicate that stuff to you. I can't remember any time that I felt like, that's not fair. Like I didn't know that wasn't, right. Like it tells me right there, like if anybody sees you, they're going to be mad at you.
And it typically makes sense. Like you mentioned, no one's going to question a bartender just grabbing a bunch of nonsense and putting it in a tumbler.
Yeah, especially rat poison, who cares? Maybe the guy wants it. Like, we're good to go.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that's kind of odd is carrying around a medieval battle axe as a bodyguard.
That did crack me up because it's actually allowed. I don't know if it's maybe he confiscated that from someone.
Interesting. That's an interpretation.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very silly. I feel like most people would be like, what the hell? I would. But regardless, I'm glad they let me do it because then I can chunk battle axes at people's heads.
Yes. Yeah.
It's very satisfying.
So not every entry in this series is going to be this in-depth because for the next 6 weeks or 6 episodes, we're really just going to be talking about what we did in the episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that particular level. Because there's not going to be, huge changes. I don't anticipate there being huge changes through the 6 episodes of Hitman 2016.
Yeah.
So let's jump into sort of our activities in the space.
Yep.
What was your first takeout?
So my first takeout was you're talking about like just take someone's costume or like the actual first
six? Just walking through the level.
Oh, like what did I? Oh yeah. So first thing I did, you're walking up the red carpet. in the first level, right? And you're getting all these. I was actually in the clown costume, really? Right out the gate, and
I want to go to Colorado so I can wear the cowboy suit.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
Really sharp blue suit and the just too white cowboy hat.
It's amazing.
It's way too white.
I love it so much. But yeah, I was walking, and they're like, "Ooh, looking stylish. That's a new take." It's saying all this stuff, So I walk in, and I'm still laughing at this point. But it opens up in this big space. You see your target for the first time, and I honestly, I just spent some time following the target, getting used to his routines, listening in on his conversations, figuring out where I could and couldn't go. I eventually found my way into a little closet, and where a vacuum was. I turned the vacuum on, and a guard, one of the low-level security guards, came in to turn it off, and I took him out and took his clothes and hid him in a locker. And so I was wearing his stuff and kind of experimenting this way and that. The first time I took the guy out, he walks down into the park a little ways, and there's a wire you can expose if you have a wrench. And so I went down there as crew. I had found a crew outfit, and I went down and nest with it, so it was electric-y. That's the correct term, electric-y.
Correct.
And I unfortunately didn't realize this. You have to be very careful where you stand when you do it. So standing in the water when I released it, thinking, oh, it's a game, it'll wait. No, the second you expose a wire, you become electrocuted and die. And so I did. But so I went back around, and I just stood back. I was sitting next to one of the low-level guards, like, "Hey, man, how's the stage looking?" "Oh, real good." I sit there and I just wait for this man to walk into a pool of electricity, and his bodyguard's like, "Oh, no, sir, what happened?" It's good stuff. So that was my first, that was the first kill I had in the game. It was very fun.
So for me, so he was the second target I took out. I took out his wife first. And so you're taking out this fashion mogul, and I forget what her...
She's a model.
She was a model?
She was a model.
A retired model.
Yeah, a retired model who is now the kind of headpiece of this ring of... They kind of use models to get in with the rich and famous, and they extract basically... blackmail on them and sell this to
based on,
or just information like the flight plans of someone or something, so they can be attacked, stuff like that.
It sounds like, based on your conversation with his wife, so once you become the like head model that I was talking about, you sit in on a conversation with her, and this model is actually one of her agents, and
or like he's interviewing to be one or something, right? Or something like that?
Well, no, she's sending him on a big job.
Got it.
And it sounds like they might also be involved in some sort of trafficking, because there's this new young pretty model that you're going to sort of hook up with some world leader, and then you're going to have an in with the world leader and that blackmail. So I'm not sure, how deep that goes, but your target is her and her husband, who is putting on this whole show. So during this conversation, she'll like sit on the couch for a minute, then she'll walk over to the window and just keep monologuing. And while I was in there, take her out, put her in the bathroom, and walk away. That's fine. What I did with I couldn't really find a good in with with her husband, but I also didn't explore as much as you. I didn't give myself enough time this week, unfortunately. So what I did was pull a fire alarm, and everyone is freaking out. But I ran downstairs. I saw that there was I think during another run, I'd done something similar, caused an alarm to go off, and I saw that he had gone downstairs for something. So I pull the alarm this time intentionally, and I run downstairs and sort of hide behind a stairwell, and it's just him and his personal bodyguard running with the bodyguard in front, and I just have my silent pistol. I take him out, the target, and then walk to the exit. Calmly walk to the exit. And then on the second playthrough, I was able to get him to walk out on stage on the catwalk. Well, that happens. If you let enough time pass, he's going to walk out and give some big speech. But I was able to make my way to the third story and release the chandeliers.
That's awesome.
Classic. It's just
awesome.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun as well.
So basically the way the game communicates this is sometimes there's just this intel that you pick up and it's like, oh, it gives 47 and his what are those called? I forget the content.
Handler.
Handler, thank you. An idea, and so it kind of details, hey, maybe try this, a more scripted way of completing the mission, which is fine.
Or, you might already have those, that plan set in motion, but maybe you don't want to kill everybody. So like the clipboard behind that you're mentioning gives you the information that the actual lead designer of the fashion, he's going out on stage to give the speech. So is your target for a moment, but your target will go out there for a longer amount of time and give the speech himself if for some reason this fashion, the head of fashion can't go out on stage. So you might want to lead him away since he's not actually your target. Maybe, just knock him out, put him in a closet so he's not dead, and then take out your target. And
yeah, this is good stuff to know. Basically, it's not going to be as dynamic as a lot of as games maybe like it. First one comes to mind for me obviously is Metal Gear 5. In that game, you can approach a brand new situation and you will tell an immediate difference between someone who is very new at the game and someone who's played it a lot. Just because the mastery in that game doesn't come from knowing the environments or the levels as much as a fundamental mastery of the mechanics themselves, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't really that kind of a game. It really is, they want you to get to know their levels and the behaviors of the people around you and who are involved. And in other games, memorizing a level is pretty boring. If it's just like memorizing the exact guard path to this, like other stealth games come to mind, right? Either it's totally randomized or this will happen in this and this and this. The level is always like this, this, and this. I never feel that way playing this one because of how open these levels are, because of just the straight up 10,000 ways that you could, get to a new area or try a new way, or it's the creativity and the experimentation that makes learning the level an actual, that's the fun part, is learning the level. I remember climbing on a balcony, scooting over and finding a ladder up to that third floor room you were talking about that's in the back so that none of the guards stop you or see you or anything. And then I found out that you can actually get into the female target's private room early, wait for her to come in with her bodyguard, and then just you can either wait for the bodyguard to leave or wait for her to leave. There's a couple different things you can do because you're sitting there in her private room waiting for her. It's there's just it doesn't have to be scripted all the time. So this circumvents that typical, oh, well, I feel like a stealth assassin because I know the level inside and out, and that's the only reason I feel like this, by just making learning that level so freaking fun and enjoyable and always having something new you can try. You're always, as you do the level more, you're unlocking new starting positions, new areas you can smuggle illegal items into.
Which is nice. That's a nice feature. Now, early on, in my first couple playthroughs, I hadn't unlocked any additional items, so there was nothing new for me to have dropped in. But that's a pretty interesting little mechanic.
Yeah, it's really fun. I smuggled in a sniper rifle and just.
How do you unlock that?
I think it's just a certain level of experience in the level.
Oh, yeah. So I mentioned this was a bit of a mess in the beginning. I am playing through the Hitman 3 client. For some reason, one, it's not automatically logging me into the IOI servers, and then it's not keeping me logged in. So I might get kicked out in the middle of a level, or just for whatever reason, it's not staying connected, so I don't get that progression.
Yeah, it's unfortunately a little bit odd. From what I'm understanding, it's how people are having issues with just multiple things on the launch. But thankfully, it doesn't seem those issues don't pertain itself, to the game.
Yeah, it's really it's the whole platform they've built, which really is a little odd. They try to make it. They tried to make it in the beginning sort of a live service, and I don't think it was received as well as maybe they were hoping. The second game was the full game, same thing with the third, getting all 6 levels, but still a platform. You could import all of the levels from the first one into the second one, and then 12 levels from the previous 2 games into the third one. It's not working very well, but yeah, the game itself is still all there.
Yeah, and from what I understand, pretty solid.
Well, actually, yeah, I guess you and I wouldn't know because we're not playing 3 yet.
Yeah, I've heard though, like in terms of like, you know, having a technical issue like this, those really aren't plaguing the game too much, from what I understand, which is good. I just think that from first impressions, this is just the first level we've played, which isn't even the most memorable from what I understand, from the 2016 game. So I'm excited to see.
It's probably going to be the next one, right?
I think that seems to be what people say. Sapienza seems to be the go-to one. I believe it's the sushi chef, the this one where you can like become a sushi chef and stuff.
Right.
And yeah. So it just looks fun. I'm very excited to see what the game has to offer. Really excited for the series and the format we're doing it, just to have, you know, one episode over the course of 2 weeks where we're just playing it and having fun. And that just makes me excited, especially just to see, how'd you take them out? What silly things did you find in the level? Wasn't that NPC super annoying?
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Sure.
So really excited. But that's all I had to say about episode 1.
I don't have much more. Well, anything really. I'm looking forward to playing the whole thing, and hope you guys stick around for that. We will we'll have a playlist of that at some point. Once we get a couple more episodes, we'll probably have a playlist of those standalone episodes. But that's going to be it for us this week.
Yep. That's the photo. It's good stuff.
Once again, we want to remind you of our Discord, which you can gain access to through the $2 tier on Patreon. We'll have some monthly playthroughs. I think we both tried Ikaruga this month, and just we're not doing so hot. So that's what I was trying to play on my off time this month, and I'm not good at video games, guys. And you got to be so good at that game you got to be really good at video games to even scratch the surface of that one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not that the game wasn't doing it for me. I just was not able to play it.
That's funny.
Yeah. So the photo mode, we haven't dug in too much into the photo mode. Unfortunately, I was really spoiled with Ghost of Tsushima being my first experience with photo mode, which is just the best photo mode. It is so good. But we'd love to have you there. Share games with us. If you've stuck around this long, please consider a like and subscribe. And if you're listening, then maybe a review on your platform of choice. Thanks for sticking around, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.